The Avalanche have been forced into an impossible decision as they head into the offseason with a lot of questions on their roster and possibly quite a few guys that they have to move out. Management has made a monster of their own making, and now they will have to deal with it. What is up, Avalanche Nation? This is Avalanche Digest, your number one source for all of your Avs news. And as always, we are going to dive right into it. So don't forget to subscribe and comment down below who you think could potentially be on the chopping block and what free agents should the Avs go after. We're going to be taking a look at some potential guys that are moving out and some potential guys that they could bring in as well. But without further ado, let's get right into it. So, the most probably biggest question mark on this roster right now is Charlie Coyle. Charlie Coyle is a big, physical third-line center who plays a good two-way game. However, he is on a fairly bad contract. The production you really don't have a huge problem with, but if you look, he's got a $5 million+ contract on the books. Thanks a lot, Boston, for that horrible contract for what should be a good third-line center, very much reminiscent of the JT Compher signing in Detroit. Just guys that are overpaid because they're such good third-line centers, but are being paid like low-end second-line centers, and they're just not that. I mean, Charlie Coyle, to be quite honest, wasn't the best in the playoffs, and if you're trying to cap crunch and you're trying to find a second-line center and you're dealing with the ever-loving cap, brutal mistress of the cap, then a guy like Charlie Coyle, unfortunately, kind of has to be looked at as one of the first guys to go. Now, you're really looking at anyone making above $3 million right now in the bottom six and in the bottom four defensemen to say, what do you do? What is your job? And are you worth that amount of money? So really on the forward side, taking a look at certain contracts, you love Martin Necas' contract right now at $6 million. That is such good value. You're looking at Brock Nelson and saying, how much money does a guy like that want to stay, and is it worth paying him or getting another free agent that's a little bit less money, but you get to save it for other guys? You look at a guy like Jonathan Drouin, whose projected contract is like $5 million. Heck no, to say it in the best way possible. There is absolutely no way you pay that guy $5 million per year. A guy like Artturi Lehkonen, you look at and you say, that is amazing value. I love to have a guy like Artturi Lehkonen on the team for under $4.5 million all day. Absolutely never trade Artturi Lehkonen. He's just too precious. Protect him at all costs. But another guy I want to look at is Sam Gerard. Now, I think Sam Gerard gets a little bit too much hate in this community. I think he's good. I just don't think he's great, making $5 million. And you look, he has some inherent weaknesses that can just never be fixed. He makes, $5 million, like I said. We're going to be talking quite a bit about the defense because I think this is where a majority of the cuts will come. But you look at Sam Gerard's contract and you look at Josh Manson's contract, that's called foreshadowing, and you see a lot of overpayment for guys that have some pretty inherent weaknesses. In the case of Sam Gerard, he is a great penalty killer. I'm not going to say he doesn't have value, but when you get into the playoffs and you realize that he just always gets beat in front of the net because he's 5'8", 5'9", and he's always going to be out-muscled physically, in a playoff series where you frequently see the second pairing of Sam Gerard and Josh Manson get scored on and be the biggest Achilles heel weakness for the Colorado Avalanche, you have to ask the question, is his money better spent elsewhere? It's the same with Josh Manson, in my opinion. I really think Josh Manson has a bit of a troubling contract as well. At $4.5 million, he only has 15 points. Now, look at those games played. You might say, oh, well, he missed half the season. Great. This has been one of his most healthy seasons in a while. And this is like year 3 with the Colorado Avalanche. He has been injury-ridden the entire time he's been with the Avs. Now, I'm not blaming him for that. Obviously, he plays a big physical style. He's incredibly effective at playing the body, and he puts everything out there on the ice. He plays with his heart. But that leads to a lot of injuries. And unfortunately, if you're paying a guy $4.5 million who's never here, that's a tough sell, especially when Sam Gerard and Josh Manson have been one of the worst pairings in the NHL year after year. We have years of this data to prove this, and they often don't play together. That's almost $10 million you have wrapped up in guys that aren't being very effective for you in the playoffs. Manson is not effective defensively. He's effective offensively, and he's a dog in the playoffs offensively. But defensively, he's always not leading to a lot of mistakes, and you can always look at it in every series. You're like, damn it, Manson, that was on you. And it always happens that way. It's tough to have these two defensemen signed for this amount of money when you have Cale Makar at $9 million, Devon Taves at $7.25. You really have to look and say, we just can't be affording these many costly mistakes. Now, let's keep going forward. A guy I really like and I don't want the Avs to trade is Ross Colton. But the truth of the matter is, Ross Colton, unfortunately very injury-ridden, has just been not good in the playoffs the last two seasons. Now, this season, he was obviously injured. It's a tough season for this guy. Ross Colton is a fairly healthy player, but this season, the injury bug was on him all day long. And unfortunately, in the playoffs, he wasn't effective last season either. So it's a guy that, while he's got good goal scoring and he's got good numbers and his underlying numbers are very solid, he's making $4 million. A guy like Ross Colton is being paid to be a third-line center, and he's not a third-line center. He's your third-line right wing. So that raises the question, what kind of player do we have here? Is this a player we can really afford to keep around, or is this a player we can trade for good assets? And I think that every single one of the guys I've just talked about, Charlie Coyle, Josh Manson, Sam Gerard, and Ross Colton, all have positive trade value. Now, these is what I'm basically talking about the most in these videos. Guys that have positive trade value that I wouldn't like the Avs to lose, but could fetch a good return for somebody that, in the aggregate, could refill them and be a better role instead of having some of the biggest weaknesses that these players do. This is why I'm saying this could be potential options. Now, a player that absolutely should be moved is Miles Wood. He's terrible. He has low hockey IQ. He's not good. He straight up lost them a playoff game. He doesn't do anything worthwhile. He's a very, good guy. He seems like such a sweet human being. He's best friends with Ross Colton, which is also why you could see those two packaged together. I think their spouses are also friends, so that's kind of a thing. It's like you can definitely keep them together and ship them out together. But Miles Wood does not have positive trade value. I don't think you'll be fetching a lot. So we're mostly talking about guys that have positive trade value. Back to guys that do. Another one, which I would also hate to lose, is Val Nichuskin. Val Nichuskin has been incredibly unpredictable ever since he signed his big contract. He's actually signed for about 6.25, and he's never played more than 60 games in a season since. He is incredibly effective when he's in the lineup, has multiple 20-goal seasons, but the guy just cannot stay in the lineup, whether it's injuries, whether it's personal issues that are very well documented and we do not need to go into on this channel. But it's notable to mention, last season, Val Nichuskin had zero trade value. This season, he has a little bit. Is this the right time to fully get out of a contract like this? Well, in the case of the contract, I really got to say, it's a good contract for a guy that has the potential to be a 30-goal scorer, 70-point, even 80-point guy like Val Nichuskin, if he's fully healthy and in the lineup. That's a good contract value. So it's a tough dilemma to say, do we sell Val Nichuskin while we still have a chance? Or do we commit to him? Because now you finally got Landeskog and Nichuskin back together being the effective, dynamic, huge, physical forechecking duo that they are. Do you keep them together? It's hard to say no. But I really want to mention two guys that I think are very good, and that is Mikael Granlund, who is an incredible free agent option for the Avalanche and cost-effective. He's projected to make about $5 million, and Sam Bennett. Sam Bennett is wanted by every single team, But these are two guys that I have in mind when I'm saying this is who you clear cap space for. And it's an interesting dilemma of some of those other players that are also on the trade block and aren't necessarily in free agency could also be gotten through use of our own players on our roster right now. Before I go, I want to mention that only 32.5% of you are actually subscribed. So let's get those numbers up. We are currently at 99 subscribers. So don't one of you want to be the 100th subscriber? I know you do. Go ahead and click that number. Do not be the 101st. No one wants that. We all want you to be the 100th. So definitely subscribe to the channel. We're going to keep going over free agents. I'm going to dive more into the free agents I've already mentioned and just keep talking about great trade options for the Colorado Avalanche as this season is almost over, guys. We are now moving into the 2025-2026 season. Oh my goodness, I'm getting old, but have a good one. That is enough for this video, guys, and I will see you in the next one.